So I'm going to move on to the valves of the horn. And the horn has rotor valves. Some tubas and euphoniums have rotor valves as well. And so these rotor valves, they move back and forth, and they require a little bit different way to oil them because you can't really remove them yourself easily. So when you're getting ready to go to your classroom or getting ready to practice your double horn, in this case, I oil the valves by removing the corresponding slides. And you want to make sure these do actually fit in any configuration, so you want to make sure that you're extremely conscientious as to how you remove the slides so that you put them back in the right place. And then when I oil the valve, best way to do it is on your lap. And you're just going to hold it as upright as possible, and you're just going to a couple drops down inside the slides as straight as possible. If you do it to the side, then all the valve oil is going to go down the side of the tube, and then it has to run down to the bottom to get to the valve. And so that's how you oil the valve on the rotor instruments. And then I'm going to put my slides back in. If they don't line up correctly, then you probably need to take it to the shop. You don't want to try to straighten these yourself. And when I push these slides down, I always try to push the corresponding valves down as well, because I don't know if you could hear it when I was pushing it down, but it's a little bit harder to push down and you hear air seeping through. That's because the ports aren't lined up with the slide holes, and so air is being pushed up and down through it, and it shouldn't do that. So that first valve is done. The rest of them are the same. So when you oil the second valve, you would pull out these two slides, and the third valve, you would pull out these two slides and then drop oil down in there. Oiling the parts of the valves, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the top cap of this third valve. And you'll notice you can see a spindle here, the top part of the spindle, and you can clean that off if there's any residue. And then you just tiny bit of oil there, tiny bit, right in the spindle, because you don't have a lot of clearance there. So if it has to work its way down there to work correctly, so that one's done. Again, you can cross thread these really easily. So if it doesn't go on easily, you need to back it up a little bit and then start all over again, and just be patient with it, because you can cross thread it and then it has to be rethreaded. So that's the top part of that valve, that spindle, and the bottom part is here. And there's no cap associated with this side, so you're just going to oil the spindle. Got this little tip, and it makes it a lot easier. Some horn oil has a longer tip on it, a longer applicator, similar to like what a needle would be. It allows you to drop it in there a little bit easier. This is a universal tip for us, and we find this works best for all of our instruments, so that's what we use. And I just dropped a little bit in there, and so now it works smoothly. Now, one thing that you want to be sure of is that you don't force your valves to go down if they're not working correctly. So on your paddles, if they're not moving easily, if your valves don't work, don't push them down, because these parts will bend, and then you have to take it to the shop to get it straightened. So what I try to do is, if my valve isn't working, on this particular one, it has a mechanical linkage, and I will move the mechanical linkage back and forth rather than push the top part down. The levers, again, are kind of delicate. If you push it down, it's too hard, it's going to bend all of this and just make it out of place. Then it might rotate awkwardly, and then the valve won't work. If you notice, I just pushed this down here, and if it still doesn't work, that means that it's time to take it into the shop and get it looked at. So never force it, always take it in and get it looked at. And that's how you oil the valves on the rotor instrument.